Hello, my name is Owen. Today we're doing a quick review of Daphne du Maurier's My Cousin Rachel. What I want to do is give a brief overview of the book is about, tell you things that I liked, tell you things that I didn't like. Jumping straight into it, this is another thriller, mystery, suspense from du Maurier. For those of you that don't know, she is one of my favorite authors of all time, even though I've only read, this is the third book I read from her, and I accidentally read them kind of in order of like her most popular books. So like Rebecca, the first book I read of hers is her most popular book. Then I read Jamaica Inn, which is her second. And then My Cousin Rachel is her third most popular book. This one follows the character of Philip Ashley, whose cousin, who he really looks up to as like a brother, father figure, gets married to this mysterious woman. And then he falls ill and dies. And Philip doesn't really know what's going on. And then suddenly she comes to visit his estate. And the story goes on from there. I'm not going to give any more details. But like I said, du Maurier is a master of this very specific niche genre of suspense, in that it's like foreboding and it's threatening, but it's also like romantic, kind of. Like, is this a love story or is this like a high intense thriller? And I must say, even though this is her third most popular book, I think it was my favorite. Rebecca, I really like Rebecca. I think it says in the front, from the first page, the reader is back in the moody, brooding atmosphere of Rebecca. And I completely agree with that in sense of tone and atmosphere. But this book is kind of an inverse of what's going on in Rebecca. For those of you that don't know, Rebecca is about the story of this woman who marries this man who had an ex-wife that's kind of like mysterious, and was she evil, but she's dead, or is she dead? It's a mystery. What's going on? Why are you haunted by this woman who's not there? And this is the inverse of that. This is a story from a man's perspective, which is actually the first book of hers that's from a man's perspective, and the one who dies is the one he's close to, and the woman comes to visit him, and she's real, but she's the outsider, not the main character. It's really like having read both of the books, they are like weird inverses of each other. And I think this one works a lot more in the sense of the suspense and the mystery, because even up to the very last page, I did not know what the reveal was going to be. And the best thing about du Maurier is she writes in this level of gray area where I never felt like I could condemn or demonize any character, no matter how much Philip hated them in the book. It's such masterclass of suspense and mystery, not knowing who to trust or how flawed Philip's perspective is, because he is definitely an unreliable narrator, clouded by his own biases. And the thing that I liked really about this book is that the mystery never felt like it was obvious or I knew where I was going. And that was one of my main problems with Jamaica Inn, is that I guessed the twist like halfway through. Still loved the book, but I knew where it was going. I still feel like, having finished the book, I'm not entirely sure if I know all the details. It's kept vague. It's kept up in the air. And from the very beginning, there are moments where I'm like, oh, I definitely figured it out. The answer is this. But then as you get going, you start to question yourself. And this is a classic like horror trope. Like a lot of horror movies, they use like the gaslight method, where it's like, there's definitely a goblin in the closet. And everyone's like, there's no such thing as goblins. And then everyone starts dying by the goblin. That area of like, you're gonna gaslight the main character into thinking that they're wrong. It has a lot of that, but it's also like the main character's flaws play into his own delusions, and I think he's a very well-rounded character because he's young, he's foolish, and it's just really good. If you can't tell, I really, really like this book. As for things that I didn't like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I would just say that maybe some like the day-to-day stuff got a little bit monotonous. There was a lot of when the period from Rachel arrives at the estate to when like things start to pick up towards the latter half, there is a lot of like the developing of Philip and Rachel's relationship, which kind of gets monotonous of like their daily routines. Like, I went horseback riding and I returned and we talked over tea. Like, there was a lot of like that. But that being said, it was laying the groundwork for the building of this relationship, this complex, interesting relationship that they began to develop. And I'm glad I didn't know the spoilers of this book, because I feel like it's been around for so long. I don't know exactly what year it was written, but had I been spoiled to the ending, But here's the thing, though, because it's so vague, a lot of, like, there is a spoiler at the end. There's something that happens. But the mystery, like I said, I still feel like it's pretty vague. Yeah, it was written in 1951. So it's been around for 70 years. But I think this is her most strongest work. I don't really know where it falls in the order of books that she wrote, but I just felt like it was atmospherically spot on, and the characters, I think, were her strongest in all the books I've read, because du Maurier is the king of atmosphere. That's thing I would say about any one of her books, is that you're instantly transported into this old England atmosphere, but her characters are standout, and I loved the complexity of every single one of them. And like I said, too, there's a little bit of romance thrown in there, too. There's some moments where I'm like, oh, wow, romance. I know, right? But yeah, I really recommend it. If you haven't read any du Maurier books and you want to read only one because you're an idiot, this is the one you got to read. I really, really liked it, and I highly recommend it. For fans of mystery, for fans of suspense, for fans of romance even, you'll find something here. For fans of period pieces, there's no better than du Maurier. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks for sticking around. Be sure to like and subscribe. And also, before I sign away, I just want to say thank you for letting me cross 500 subscribers on the channel. 500? That's what I'm talking about. It's great news. Makes me feel tremendously grateful to all of you for sticking around. But like I said, tell your friends to like and subscribe. And then we could gush together. Am I right? Thanks for sticking around.